This is the television news service. My name is Marichka Padalko. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch the broadcast, and be sure to comment on what you found most interesting. Here are some of the topics in today's episode. The American Bradley is a dream come true for any commander who wants to protect the lives of their infantry. But this equipment can also be vulnerable.
We need to drive up to the unloading point now. It will be detected while still on the move, even 10 kilometers before reaching our position, and they'll just be waiting for us.
What hinders the Bradley on the battlefield besides the weather? What did the British royal family do to charm Donald Trump? Will this help tomorrow's talks between the American president and Prime Minister Starmer? In particular, they will also discuss Ukraine. The Russians have advanced in the Kharkiv and Zaporizhzhia regions. This was reported by the analytical portal Deep State. At the same time, the occupiers continue to amass forces near Pokrovsk. The enemy has made gains in Kupiansk. Occupier units have entered the city. This is confirmed by recent geodata. Our defenders have also been pushed back from positions near Novoivanivka in the Zaporizhzhia region, according to the Institute for the Study of War. The enemy is pressing along the entire front line, but the occupiers are concentrating most of their forces on the Pokrovsk sector. In the battles there, they lose between 10 and 20 soldiers for every meter of captured ground. Gaps in their personnel are being filled, in particular by militants from the Kursk region. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces are counterattacking the enemy army at the salient near Dobropilya. There, the occupiers have found themselves trapped. The defense forces have encircled them in the area of the village of Kukuriv Yar and at the intersection of the villages of Novoshakhov and Shakhov. They break the legs of their own soldiers and leave them as bait on the battlefield. A conversation of this nature between the occupiers was intercepted by specialists from the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. So from this, it follows that the Russian decided to flee the front lines to escape his own butcher commanders, but he was caught in the area of temporarily occupied Mariupol. Those who caught him broke his limbs and promised to send him back to his unit so that the commanders on the spot could use the crippled man however they pleased, specifically as bait for Ukrainian soldiers or drones on the front line.
They caught him. So you didn't even make it to Mariupol. Did you think they wouldn't catch you? Soon you'll be there. They'll throw you into the thick of the fighting, into the grinder, that's it. But the truth is, with broken arms and legs, you'll be used as bait for the Ukrainians.
In the Dnipropetrovsk region, a forced evacuation has been announced for another 18 settlements in the Synelnykivska community. First and foremost, this will apply to children along with their parents or legal guardians, according to the regional military administration. The National Police, the State Emergency Service, humanitarian organizations, and local authorities will assist with the evacuation. People are ready to be received in calmer areas of the region. Forced evacuation in some districts of the Dnipropetrovsk region began back in April. Since then, the number of settlements has been expanded several times as the enemy shells parts of the districts every day, attacking them with drones and guided bombs. In Slatyn, Kharkiv region, a man was killed as a result of a Russian strike. According to preliminary data, the occupiers struck at around 12:50 with a multiple launch rocket system. Fires broke out and at night explosions were heard in Smila, Cherkasy region. Critical infrastructure was hit there. The number of injured in Inhulka, Kherson region has risen to 7. The Russians attacked the village twice with aircraft. In the morning, a family was injured in their own home due to a KAB strike. 3 adults and a 3-year-old child were hospitalized. Later, another local resident with a blast injury sought medical help. And the night before, the occupiers dropped an aerial bomb on the home of an elderly couple. They were also wounded. 1 person was killed and 9 were injured as a result of enemy attacks in Donetsk region. The Russians used bombs, drones, and artillery to strike Kostiantynivka and attacked Sumy with 6 Shahed drones. All the hits were on non-residential buildings. And in Velika Pisarivka, the occupiers dropped 3 aerial bombs and struck with drones. Houses were burning, apartment buildings were damaged, there is no electricity or communication there. And now there are already 22 wounded, including 4 children, in Zaporizhzhia. The day before, the occupiers shelled the city with tornado rocket systems. Another person was killed, and near Tavriske, the Russians struck a passenger bus with an FPV drone. There is 1 wounded. They also attacked a civilian car. The driver and passenger were injured. A guided aerial bomb, which after another Russian attack penetrated deep into the ground and did not explode, was neutralized in Kherson. The half-ton high-explosive bomb landed between apartment buildings. It could have detonated at any moment and destroyed one of the buildings. Sappers, together with explosives experts, first carefully dug it out, pulled it from the pit, and with the help of machinery lifted and transported it out of the city. There, far from residential areas, it was neutralized. Donald Trump and his wife Melania are being received like royalty. Today, the royal family of Great Britain is hosting him on an official two-day state visit. The American president has already been taken for a carriage ride and was greeted with fanfare by the honor guard for King Charles, analysts report. The government has set out to thoroughly impress Trump with their hospitality so that they can later hold important state talks on tariffs, technology, weapons, and of course, Ukraine. As is well known, the monarch has a special fondness for our country and has met with Volodymyr Zelensky several times. How was the head of the United States received, and what do they expect from him in foggy Albion? Next, Oksana Tkachenko will continue.
A United States helicopter lands on the lawn of the British monarch's summer residence in Windsor. The weather leaves much to be desired, rain with drizzle and even fog. Nevertheless, Donald Trump and his wife Melania arrived on a rare, large-scale two-day state visit. No other U.S. president has ever been received in Windsor like this before. According to protocol, they are met at the plane by Prince William and his wife Kate. Melania is wearing a black suit with a purple hat, very similar to the one she wore at her husband's inauguration. Trump is wearing a tie that matches the color of his wife's hat. King Charles and Camilla also come out together to greet them. After that, the hosts and guests get into carriages and head straight to Windsor Castle. Trump and Charles sit separately, with the Queen and Melania following behind them. Such a grand reception with an honor guard in Windsor was not even arranged for French President Macron. More than 1,000 guardsmen and a cavalry with 100 horses welcome Trump to the United Kingdom. King Charles and the politician inspect the guard together, talk about something, and are noticeably joking. The plans include a joint American-British air show, a visit to the grave of Elizabeth II, and a lavish banquet in St. George's Hall at Windsor Castle. The protocol meticulously checked the menu and seating arrangements down to the last detail, but most thoroughly the monarch's 7-minute speech, according to the BBC. It was edited several times to be as politically cautious as possible and not to irritate the already unpredictable President of the United States. The British government entrusted Charles III with an important mission. And although monarchs usually stay out of politics, he was tasked with charming Trump as much as possible, because tomorrow they will be holding important talks with him. Prime Minister Keir Starmer will be negotiating with the American leader on a new nuclear deal, technology, tariffs, and importantly, on Ukraine as well. Politico reports that diplomats spent a long time searching for ways to push Trump toward decisive action against Russia and Putin, and ultimately decided to bring the king into the arena. Charles is well informed about the course of the negotiations, personally acquainted with Volodymyr Zelensky, and even holds a special fondness for him. This, Politico writes, makes him a quiet but consistent ally of Kiev, who is ready to do his part to reduce the skepticism of the United States regarding this matter. Trump is scheduled to meet with the president of Ukraine next week on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Zelensky himself, in an interview with the British channel Sky News, admitted what expectations he has for Trump's visit to Britain.
I hope that Prime Minister Starmer will be able to have a separate conversation about security guarantees from the United States for Ukraine. Before we end the war, I would very much like us to finalize all the agreements. I would like to have a document supported by the United States and all our European partners. This is very important. It will really motivate our military. That is, if we end the war, we want to be protected. For this to happen, we need a clear position from President Trump. Next, we need the ability to purchase any weapons except nuclear ones from the United States.
Despite the luxury and glamour, London analysts write, will be forced to balance between trying to impress the American president and explaining to its citizens why so much state resources are being spent on this. According to the latest polls, Trump is an extremely unpopular politician in the United Kingdom. Only 16% view him positively. And on the eve of Trump's visit, his opponents even projected a photo of the American president with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein onto Windsor Castle. Later, 4 people were arrested by the police for this action. Oksana Tkachenko, TSN 1+1.
The European Union will provide an additional 40 million euros to Ukraine ahead of the cold winter. This was announced by the President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola. She arrived in Kyiv this morning. According to Metsola, this money will go towards supporting heating and lighting. In addition, the EU will provide shelters and generators to help rebuild damaged homes and improve access to drinking water and sanitation infrastructure. Roberta Metsola, who has supported Ukraine since the first days of the full-scale invasion, spoke in the Verkhovna Rada. First and foremost, they honored former Speaker Andriy Parubi, who was killed in Lviv at the end of August. The President of the European Parliament assured that nothing will be decided about Ukraine without Ukraine and that peace must be lasting, not temporary. She supports the opening of a new cluster for Ukraine regarding our country's accession to the EU. Metsola also thanked the MPs for restoring the independence of the SEPO prosecutor's office. Standing in the Verkhovna Rada, she welcomed the news about the opening of a permanent European Parliament office in Kyiv. Additionally, Metsola announced the 19th package of sanctions against Russia.
The European Union has already mobilized 169 billion euros, of which 63 billion euros is military support. We are moving forward with the use of frozen Russian assets. We continue to put pressure on Russia. We expect that the 19th package of sanctions will be adopted soon. And we are, at this very moment, closely coordinating with all of our allies to ensure we achieve the greatest possible, that is to say, the maximum impact. And rest assured, we will absolutely continue to move away from any dependence on Russian gas and Russian oil. And we will also comprehensively address the significant issues that are related to the shadow fleet. And we are committed to doing so much more quickly and with greater urgency.
Estonia is building a 40-kilometer anti-tank ditch on the border with Russia. Its construction is planned to be completed by 2027. In the northeast, the country is protected from the aggressor by natural barriers, such as the Narva River and Lake Peipus. But the southeast has been decided to be fortified. They have also ordered the construction of nearly 600 bunkers there. Overall, the defensive zone is planned to stretch for 100 kilometers. The Baltic countries fear that after Ukraine, they could become the Kremlin's next target and are preparing for any scenario, especially after the incident with Russian drones in Poland and military exercises in Belarus. Estonian Defense Minister Hanno Pevkur shared this in an exclusive interview with TSN correspondent Oksana Tkachenko. He spent several days in Ukraine and managed to announce that next year, Estonia plans to allocate 100 million euros in military aid. Currently, Tallinn is trying to direct its main resources specifically towards strengthening the Ukrainian army.
Overall, this year, we will allocate approximately 0.3% of our GDP to aid Ukraine. Every year, we remain in the top 3 in Europe, and we will maintain this level next year. If we are faced with the choice of whether the Ukrainian army, people and state should be with us in the EU with a million-strong army or against us, I will always choose for the Ukrainian army to be with us. This is a question that everyone in the West should ask themselves. Do we want a strong Ukrainian army on our side or on Russia's side?
How did Estonia respond to the violation of airspace by Russian drones in Poland? What do they think about peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine? And are they themselves afraid of an attack from the Kremlin? The full version of the exclusive interview with Estonia's Minister of Defense is already available on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it now. American weapons continue to arrive for the Ukrainian military. But in addition to the armed forces, the National Guard has also started receiving them. Recently, the world's best Bradley IFVs have been put into service with the National Guard Brigade Kharkiv. TSN special correspondent Andriy Tsaplienko found out how exactly the National Guard members are preparing to use this offensive weaponry. During this segment, you will see a QR code. The fighters of Kharkiv are in great need of a robotic system, so please join in and support.
The American Bradley fighting vehicle always lifts the spirits of infantrymen on the front line, and it's easy to see why.
It has power, it has mass, it has armor. The armament that it comes with is also, it has to be said, quite impressive.
These vehicles have proven themselves excellently on the battlefield with the armed forces. Now the National Guard troops have received them as well. The Kharkiv brigade is already practicing assaults, troop landings, and casualty evacuations with the Bradley IFV. In fact, that's exactly what this equipment was designed for.
And that's it, guys, as fast as possible. The main thing is the timing, the time. We have very little of it.
The Bradley needs to quickly, preferably in just a few seconds, unload the troops and pick up the wounded. In real conditions, every such rotation happens under fire. That's why, to minimize losses on the battlefield, the Bradley crew and its National Guard passengers trained to act in sync, like a single clockwork mechanism.
The guys need to know the action algorithm. There are a lot of nuances. In the same way, now the guys will theoretically go over how to open the emergency doors, how to close them, and all sorts of other countless nuances. But it's necessary. We need to have a work template in our heads.
But the main thing to understand is that during disembarkation, it's almost guaranteed that a gift will arrive from an enemy drone. The Bradley IFV is a very fast but massive vehicle. Here in the north of the Kharkiv region, the air is thick with enemy reconnaissance drones. In good weather, enemy scouts can spot the American IFV several kilometers from the front line, so everything the enemy has in their arsenal will be fired at it. The Chief Sergeant of the National Guard Company believes that, in his sector, armored vehicles have currently lost their relevance, even ones as advanced as the Bradley.
To be honest, right now I hardly see any opportunity to deploy and use it anywhere in a way that would be safe for my people. Right now, as they say, it's better to go in quietly, like with a knife. This vehicle, the Bradley, is well protected. It's hard to take it out with anything. But the issue is that we have the rear part of the vehicle exposed. Even now, because of those same spotters, it's hard for us to drive up to the unloading point in such clear weather. They'll spot us while we're still on the move, even 10 kilometers before we reach our positions, and they'll just be waiting for us.
However, the weather can turn bad, the situation can change, and the infantry will have to drive the enemy out of the captured settlements. Then the Bradley, which has already become a classic of the Ukrainian war, will become relevant again. And it seems that the National Guard soldiers are now preparing precisely for such a moment. Andriy Saplienko, Ilya Shinkarenko, Serhiy Parfilov, TSN 1+1.
The United States will contribute $75 million to the Reconstruction Investment Fund. The creation of this fund was stipulated by the agreement between Ukraine and the United States on subsoil resources. Another $75 million will be invested in the fund by our state, according to the Cabinet of Ministers. Part of the money for this has been reserved in the 2026 budget, while the rest will be reallocated from this year's programs. They also expect to attract another $50 million to the fund from other investors. This capital acts as a catalyst, but American investments can become a reliable security guarantee both for Ukraine and for American businesses in Ukraine, noted Yulia Sviridenko. In addition, over the next 2 months, Ukraine and the United States will sign a contract with the fund's administrator, open bank accounts, establish a subsidiary company, and set out all investment protocols. This means that the fund will have both the capital for investments and the necessary tools to deploy them. The U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, DFC, recently visited several sites and assessed their investment potential. Ukraine and the United States are confident that this step will serve as a green light for international investors who wish to join the fund and invest together in mineral resources. The protection of military personnel's rights should finally start working. The Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine has finished reviewing the amendments and has adopted the presidential bill on the military ombudsman as a whole. The ombudsman will be able to receive complaints from military personnel or authorized individuals and initiate investigations into possible violations, including those reported in the media and confidential complaints submitted by service members. The law was submitted as urgent back in May, but its approval was not rushed. This even led to street protests. So, in the end, today the deputies supported it. If the president signs the bill, there will be 30 days to establish the office of the military ombudsman. After that, the ombudsman or their subordinates will be able to conduct inspections in the units. Based on their findings, the command will have 10 days to hold those responsible accountable. The military ombudsman will also be able to report directly to the commander-in-chief. Olha Resputilova, the President's Commissioner for the Protection of the Rights of Servicemen and their families, says that the institution will primarily help the defense forces implement positive changes and provide maximum protection for the rights of servicemen, as is done in particular in NATO countries.
We are strengthening the defense forces. We are in no way being created to, persecute commanders or, punish everyone indiscriminately. No, not at all. On the contrary, we are here to help resolve certain problematic issues related to human capital. problematic issues concerning the sense of justice and accordingly the motivation of service members.